Hey everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today I thought it would be fun as I am sweating during this heat wave to talk about some of the books that I've been purchasing in the last couple of weeks. I haven't done a lot of book hauls this year, but we're back. If you have any recommendations, let me know. So a few of them are from used bookstores, library sale, and then a couple are from a friend, which I thought were really funny. So I think we're going to start with these ones because you're going to see there's a team. There's a team. We don't have necessarily the same taste in terms of fiction that much, but she wanted me to try this one and she bought it at a library sale. There's a sticker. This is The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which I think might be a YA fantasy, but she said that it was extremely readable, and I have been on the hunt to try to read more fantasy in general this year. And I've been kind of so-so about some of the young adult books, and I have mentioned that some of the ones that I've read that are adults, they don't read adults to me. And like, obviously don't mean to offend anyone or the author when I say that, but you know how sometimes there's just something about the writing that reads young adult, and doesn't necessarily mean that it's because the main character is young. There's just, specific tropes that tend to be really common in those. So I wanted to try one that is officially YA and that she enjoys, and hopefully we'll have something to talk about. So I'll let you know how that one goes. And the two other ones are nonfiction. And again, I thought I would mention them because they made me giggle. The first one is How to Date Men When You Hate Men, but she read this book and she said it was funny. So again, I thought, you know what, maybe I can read it and we can have something to talk about. I'm assuming the tone is going to be just funny. So we'll see what I get out of this, but that's a nonfiction. Also the color. Like, this is what I want. I feel like more books need to be colorful and like a gorgeous spine. It looks great. So I'm happy to have that on my shelf. And the other one sounds similar. The Tragedy of Heterosexuality. Catchy title to make you want to pick it up, but it talks about sexual harassment, misconduct, great saturation in the news with the Me Too movement, which now that makes more sense why my friend wanted to read this. She did enjoy the topic, and I made her pick up Men Who Hate Women and Entitled, which I feel like we're going to have a lot to discuss and be annoyed at. So yeah, these are books that she enjoyed, and I'm a good friend. I feel like in real life, I don't have enough friends that read in general. And whenever they do, our tastes are just not similar. So whenever someone suggests something that I'm like, you know what, we can talk about this, I want to participate. So I will be reading her books eventually, and I'll let you know. But like, these titles are a little tragic. So one that I got extremely excited to find because this is Defiant, the last book in the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson. So this cover is ugly. It does not match my editions, but I wasn't going to continue. Listen, I really loved book 1 and 2. I feel like it's a classic sci-fi. Main character is stuck on this planet. They're constantly under attack by aliens, and it's definitely young adult. The sense of humor is also very like angsty young adult, and it works. It's great. I loved it. And at the end of the book, obviously it's Brandon Sanderson, you get this big reveal, and then book 2 becomes a bigger world. It's very interesting. And then I read the 2 novellas that you have to read between book 2 and 3. They both sucked. They did. And I think they were co-written, both of them, with someone else. It shows. It was not good. It was not good. But I decided eventually to pick up book 3, and it sucked. It was my most disappointed books of whatever year I read it in. 2 years ago, I think. It was really not what I expected. It's almost like a side quest to the main story. Did not care for it. No. I still have to read the novella between book 3 and 4. So you can kind of sense a theme that I wasn't super involved into the whole story anymore. But now that I found book 4, I'm like, I kind of have to now. I feel like it never ends a series badly. So I have to. I have to. I don't know when I will, but I mean, it was like $1. What was I going to do? Not pick it up? So I did. So yeah, I'm still hopeful because I have enjoyed a lot of his books. Obviously, he's definitely a well-known author, but I'm realizing I tend to love more his adult fantasy series, but it is what it is. I will be picking it up eventually. If you have read it, is it worth it? I'm assuming it is, but do I have to read the novella? I do own the ebook version, but like, the 2 other ones were really bad, and they were like 100+ pages. Like, how is that a novella? It's basically another novel, and not a good one. So anyway, I was still excited when I found it. A few of these are kind of random, but again, when you buy most of your books used, that's kind of what happens, right? I love using my library for like really recent ones, especially when I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy them or not, like mystery thrillers. This has been really hit and miss, more miss than anything the last couple of years. So I love using my library for that. And then when there are authors that I know I love, then I'll buy the brand new edition whenever I can. But these book hauls tend to be more random whenever it's used bookstores. And the first one, I'm actually really excited. I think this is considered horror. This is What Moves the Dead. And I have read one book by the author. I'll put it on the screen. I think it's, is it Nettle and Bones? Pretty sure it's that author. And it took me by surprise. I had really enjoyed the storytelling. It almost feels like a retelling of like a fairy tale, and they don't normally work that well for me, but this one I did really enjoy. I did listen to that one as an audiobook, so maybe contributed, I don't know. But this one is like a pretty short horror book, and it says nothing on the back. Let me double check what it said, because I picked it up because it sounded good, obviously. A retired soldier received words that their childhood friend is dying, and they race to that home in the countryside. And then there's this whole like nightmare of fungal growth surrounding the house. So it's a horror book, and we're going towards fall. And I feel like end of summer, fall is definitely when I try to read more mystery thriller horror. And I thought this could be a good one to give a shot to. I feel like this author tends to have like very varied genre, like fantasy, horror, not necessarily always that close to each other, but that sound appealing. And again, I've liked one of her books, so why not? Maybe I will pick that up this fall. Let me know if you've read it and enjoyed it. Obviously, I will put it higher on my TBR. And the other one, on the other end of the spectrum, I decided to pick up a romance book. And I have mentioned in the past, I'm not a big romance reader, but I feel like I've started more and more because I've realized not every author writes them the same way, which sounds obvious, but I feel like I've been tricked too many times when I started Booktube reading fantasy romance, which were more like fantasy romance in a fantasy world, and it just felt like a bait and switch, and I just got really, really tired of them. Love at first sight, very like sickly sweet and too much for me. And even though I am kind of still picky about them in contemporary settings, I decided to check out this one. This is The 7-Year Slip, which I'm pretty sure I've got that recommendation in my comment section a few times. So you're following the main character who is going through the worst day of her life. She works as a book publicist. I really love whenever these kind of contemporary books follow characters that are in the book world. And it's her aunt that passed away. They were close, and then she moves into her apartment and she finds a man in there, and he exists in the past. I don't know how much like sci-fi elements truly there will be in here, but in general, I feel like books that are like romance or like mystery thriller that have a hint of sci-fi, they tend to work better for me. So again, it probably won't be that sci-fi, but I'm aware it's okay. So if you've read this, let me know. Again, bright and fun. Like, I want more books like that on my shelves. I feel like this section is pretty bright, but the other side where I have my my fantasy and sci-fi, it's so black and white. This is what I want. This is what I want for sure. I have some modern classics. I don't feel like I tend to pick those up brand new, but whenever I see them, again, library sales, used bookstores, I feel like that's the time to get them. And I saw The Color Purple. I believe this was a recommendation whenever I did a vlog where I was reading your saddest book recommendations. I think this was one of them. And I feel that's also something that people have to read in school often. And I believe it's the life of a Black woman in Georgia in the 20th century. And all I know, like I said, is that it's supposed to be really sad. And I think it's written like letter style over 30 years. So I want to eventually read this. And again, now that I own a copy, I will have to include it at the end of the year in my big jar where I pick up books every month. So eventually I do want to read this. And maybe I will do part 2 of reading your saddest books recommendation, and I will own this copy and cry. So when I'm ready for sadness, I have it now. And the other one, and I thought this was a children's book, but I've heard that you don't have to be a kid to really enjoy it. I mean, makes sense, obviously. I feel like children's books sometimes are better written than some of the other books that I've read. And it's like fantasy, but it's also used to discuss, there's a magician, a unicorn, and it's about the joys and sorrows of life. So I'm looking forward to trying this one again. It's like nice color, but my edition is not in great condition, as you can see. So it just looked really pretty. I didn't notice how damaged it was until I got home, but it's okay. Maybe I can just glue it back and we won't be able to tell. So another one that is like a classic that I eventually wanted to pick up. Sometimes I also find books that are part of series that I need to continue, and sometimes buying the next book in the series puts pressure on me. Good pressure, you know? I've been asked so many times when I was going to continue this. I have read book 1, which was one of the weirdest books I've ever read. It's like a sci-fi horror, and that ending, so unhinged that I don't know how it's going to continue. So this is book 3. I do own book 2. So Nana the Knight. So Gideon Knight, I do own Harrow the Knight, and now I have book 3, Nana the Knight. So it's a sci-fi horror, like I said. You're following, I think the short way of describing it was lesbian necromancers, and book 1 was great. So I just need to continue. I don't know why. To be fair, I think it's just really intimidating because it's so confusing. At least book 1 was really confusing. There was this big challenge and it was great, but a lot. So I will have to read book 2, and now that I own book 3, I have no choice, you know? Gotta continue. I forgot this one earlier when I was mentioning like really popular books that are a little bit older that you don't necessarily see that often on Booktube. This is Red Dragon, which this is about Hannibal Lecter. I don't know how well it has aged, but I did like this cover. It is a mass market paperback, but I feel like during the summer, I do like those to go to the beach or something. I feel like they tend to be, I just don't really care how, you know, damaged they get. Plus, they're just so small, they fit in my bag better. But while I'm like vaguely familiar, like I've seen the movie about him, I haven't read the books. So I thought, you know what, might as well try it. Maybe I will end up really enjoying it. I feel like, again, we're going towards fall. I feel like that would be on brand for the fall. If you have read this, let me know again how well it has aged. That's my only worry. But FBI agent capturing Dr. Hannibal Lecter and having to try to understand him. I don't personally feel like I'm super into like crime novels, but I feel like some of them are really good. And I feel like this one is so popular that it might be worth picking up. It did become, you know, popular movies and stuff. So that's one. And then one nonfiction. I don't often find nonfictions that sound appealing to me used. I don't know why. I feel like it's often like the same, you know, 10 that you see everywhere from a couple years ago. Like if I find one more time, like Thinking Fast and Slow, I will go nuts. I couldn't finish that book. It was a lot. But this one sounded interesting. This is The Other Slavery, the uncovered story of Indian enslavement in America. I feel like that's something that we never learned in school. I'm from Canada, but like I feel like we never mentioned slavery really ever. And definitely never talked about Native people, like ever. It feels like it was definitely hush hush. Like, yeah, the church kidnapped some of them. Like, that's basically all we knew. We didn't know anything else, at least my school, which was kind of religious school, so that could be part of it. But I wanted to try to educate myself a little bit more, and I don't know if it's the best way. I do have, is it something Braiding Sweetgrass? That I've heard a lot of good things about. I might pick up the audiobook. My library has it. But again, I saw this one and I decided to pick it up. It does say North America. So I feel like that could be working too. So again, I don't feel like this is a topic I hear enough about, and definitely not one that I know enough about. So decided to grab this one too. That's it. A quick little book haul. Let me know again if you have read any of these, which ones I should prioritize. I feel like I really want to read these 2 this year. They're probably going to be the ones at the top of my TBR. But again, if there are any other ones that you really want me to pick up ASAP, let me know and I will. And if you have any other recommendations, like I said, I'm trying to find mystery thrillers. It's going to be a big challenge for me in the upcoming weeks because I want to find some favorites this year. We're going to cross everything we can. That's it. Not a bad haul. I'm happy with the ones I was able to find. I feel like you never know what you're going to find, right? So not bad. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up, subscribe, let me know in the comment section what's the last book you've purchased, anything that you think we would want to pick up. And I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out, including one about the New York Times 100 best books of the 21st century, the critiques, the experts version. And I also did a video about the best fantasy series that are completed that I want to recommend. So definitely check those out, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.